Hello and welcome back to Book Critique, a show where we talk about pretzels and the peanut butter that lives inside them. My name is Imogen and today we are going to do a very brief summary of The Little Snow White by the Grimm brothers. It was published in 1819. If you were thinking that you could just watch the Disney film and get away with it in class, you were sorely mistaken. This is much darker and in my opinion much more interesting, even though I do love the Disney classic. So before Snow White was born, and yes, we are going back that far, her mother saw 3 drops of blood in the snow and she thought that it was so beautiful and she wanted her daughter to be just like that. They described Snow White as, when she was born, being as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as ebony, which is like a kind of morbid way to describe a child, especially considering that her mother died in childbirth. 1 year later, after the mother died, her father, the king, remarried, and the queen that he married, we know from the stories to be super duper evil. She was obsessed with her image, she was proud, and she wanted to be number 1 always. So she would ask the mirror on the wall, magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all, and it would usually tell her that she was the fairest until Snow White was 7 years old. I don't know what happened to Snow White when she was 7 years old, but basically after that point the mirror said, "The Snow White is 1,000 times prettier than you," and that set the queen off. Like, she wasn't okay with that. So after the queen finds out that she is not the most fair of them all, it just starts like eating away at her. Her envy and her pride swell within her, and she just can't take the thought of not being number 1. So that's when she summons the Huntsman to kill Snow White. She asks him to bring back her liver and her lungs as proof of death. So the Huntsman goes into the woods with Snow White, and when he pulls out his knife, Snow White begs for her life. He sees her and she's just so beautiful that he pardons her and he feels bad for her and he says that he's not going to kill her. Right at that moment, a boar, a very unfortunate boar, goes running by and the Huntsman kills that boar instead, and he takes the boar's liver and lungs to the queen. The queen has her cook boil them with salt and then she eats them. Absolute cannibal psychopath. So obviously she was already bad for wanting to kill Snow White, but now the audience knows that she's a magic practicing person and a godless person, which is something that gets mentioned later in the story. So just to mention, at this point, we don't really know exactly how old Snow White is because we know that she's like suddenly fairer from the queen at 7, but we don't know how long, like we're not giving a time period as to how long the queen was like angry and resenting Snow White before she chose to kill her. There's no like date there. So, I mean, we could probably assume that she's not that much older than 7, but we don't have an exact age. So now Snow White's alone in the woods. And the woods, in most folklore, is kind of meant to represent like scariness. It's unknown, it's unprotected. She doesn't feel safe. So she's afraid, she's like looking at the trees and running around, and she finds this cabin in the woods that when she enters it has like very small furniture in sets of 7, and there's a little table set up with plates, and she does make note that everything is very clean. So she eats some food, and after testing all of the beds, she decides to sleep in the 7th. So then the 7 dwarfs come home and they can kind of see that their things were tampered with, and they find Snow White in the 7th bed, and they're immediately struck by just how beautiful she is. So she wakes up and she tells them her story about how she's a princess and her evil stepmother's trying to kill her and all of that stuff. So they offer for her to live with them as long as she keeps house and cleans for them. And she agrees. Then they warn her not to open the door for anyone while they're away at work because they're worried that her stepmother's just going to like try and threaten her life again. So the queen, thinking that she has killed Snow White, goes to get that satisfaction by asking her mirror that stupid question, and then the mirror totally snitches Snow White out and is like, Snow White is alive and she's with the 7 dwarves in the mountains. So now, like, the queen's really upset and she starts plotting a way to kill Snow White. Now, this is the part in the story that I wanted to remind the readers of the 3 drops of blood that the mother saw in the snow. The number 3 is repeated a lot in this story, and usually 3 represents completion. So now the queen is going to make 3 separate attempts on Snow White's life, and after the 3rd is when she finally takes her life. So the first time the queen offers her corsets, she's like dressed up as a peddler selling corsets, and Snow White thinks they're beautiful, and the queen ties it super tight and like basically strangles Snow White, and she collapses on the ground, and the queen says something really mean. You used to be the most beautiful one. And that's when the dwarves call her a godless queen and save her and say like, don't open the door for anyone else, Snow White. So then the next time comes around and the queen dresses up as an old woman with like combs, and she's selling combs, and Snow White sees the comb, and at first she's like, no, I can't let you in. And then like she thinks the combs are so beautiful, so she lets the old lady come into the house and comb her hair. But the comb is laced with poison, So then Snow White passes out again. The dwarves come home and take the comb out of her hair. Tell her, don't open the door for anyone else. Then the third time is the most famous. It's the one with the apple. But the apple is a bit more interesting than you might know. The apple was half white and half red. And so the red side was poisoned and the white side was not. So the queen says, I'll eat this half of the apple to show you it's not poisoned. So then she does, and then Snow White eats the other half, and that's when she dies. What's interesting is she's like actually dead. Totally dead. And the mirror even says that she's dead. So the queen believes for a while, like a long time, that Snow White is dead. When the dwarves come home after that time, they grieve for 3 days, showing completion. They fully grieved for her. And they decide that she's too beautiful to bury. So they put her into a glass casket and put her on a mountaintop. And one of them always stands guard and watches her. The animals come and they mourn for her, and like 3 birds show up. So the 3 thing is really important to know if you're taking a quiz on this. Most likely if there's a question with a number, unless it's 7 dwarves, the answer is probably 3. And that's when we meet the prince, who sees Snow White and thinks that she is so beautiful, and he decides he like can't live without her. So he wants to take her in her glass casket to his castle. Tell me it's not the creepiest thing you've ever heard. She's literally dead and he wants her as a trophy in his bedroom. Super weird, super creepy, but okay. Another thing of note is that on the casket is written her name and her title. So the prince does know that she's a princess. But anyway, so he offers them gold for her, and he says like basically whatever you want I'll give to you for this like creature. The dwarves say like no, there's nothing you can give us, and he then says like I can't go another day without seeing Snow White, and I will cherish her and honor her and respect her. And then they're like, all right, yeah, you can take her home. Okay. So then the servants are carrying her to the prince's castle, and one of them stumbles, and when they stumble, the apple was lodged in Snow White's throat, and she like coughs it up and she comes back to life. And her and the prince, you know, say that they love each other and that they're going to get married. So now back to the queen. She gets a wedding invitation, and she doesn't know who the wedding is for, but she's getting ready for it, and she asks the mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all? And it tells her the new queen is 1,000 times fairer than you. So she's like super upset, and she doesn't even think she wants to go to the wedding, but then she decides to go because she can't resist not seeing the new queen. And when she gets there, she sees Snow White and is like totally afraid. And then it gets super Game of Thrones, and they like pull out these iron shoes that they had like heated up in burning hot coal, and they put those shoes on the queen's feet and make her dance until she dies. Yeah. Pretty good stuff. And one thing that I think is really important to note is the connection between beauty and power in this story. It's basically like Snow White's beauty nearly kills her a lot of times, but also it happens to be her saving grace. It's her beauty that made the dwarves, you know, want to save her and protect her. It was her beauty that, you know, captured the attention of the prince and that like rose her status and brought her back to life, literally. So I think that that's really important to see that connection, because it's like, yes, beauty is like something that could get you ahead in life, but also don't be stupid, you know, because she was stupid literally like 3 times in a row by, you know, listening to the queen. So it's like, if you are beautiful, protect yourself and don't be stupid, and just know that that is a thing that could be both a strength and a weakness. So that is the tale of the Brothers Grimm. I highly recommend you read the story yourself because it's like super cool. And thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and you can check out my other videos over there. And if you've made it this far, can you comment on why you think peanut butter chooses to live inside pretzel? I mean, I know I benefit from it because it's delicious, but I just want to hear your thoughts on this.